Welcome to Cheaters Theater. Over 95% of you watch without subscribing. Please like the video, subscribe, and turn on the bell. And tell us, where are you watching from? We'd love to know. Let's begin. When my wife demanded a divorce after 14 years, I quietly agreed and signed the papers. As she celebrated with her lover at our favorite restaurant, I approached their table with a smile. "Congratulations on your freedom," I said, sliding an envelope across the table. Her smirk vanished the moment she read the DNA test results. I stood in our bedroom, the first light of dawn creeping through the curtains, holding Lauren's silk scarf in my hands. It was soft, delicate, the kind she would wear to a fancy hospital dinner or a night out with her doctor friends. But that morning it felt like a blade twisting in my gut. The scent hit me first, a sharp, musky cologne that was not mine, clinging to the fabric like an unwelcome guest. At first I brushed it off. Maybe she had hugged a colleague at work, someone with bad taste in aftershave. But then I saw it. The lipstick stain. Bright red, smeared along the edge. A shade she never wore. My stomach dropped. I stood frozen, staring at it, my mind racing. 14 years of marriage. And this was how it began to unravel, not with a fight, but with a quiet, gut-wrenching moment I could not unsee. I had ignored the signs for months. Lauren's late nights at the hospital had become routine. Her excuses were vague long shifts, paperwork piling up. I never questioned her. I trusted her. She was a pediatrician, saving lives. And me? I was buried in work, keeping our life in Lakeview Heights intact as a financial consultant. We had a good life. A big house with a wraparound porch. Tyler and Mia running through the backyard. A marriage that seemed solid from the outside. But that scarf changed everything. I let it drop onto the dresser, and that was when I noticed something else. My shirt. The one she had worn last night after spilling wine on her dress. It hung over the chair, and when I picked it up, I saw another lipstick stain. Same red. My chest tightened. This was not an accident. She was not just cheating. She was leaving clues, almost daring me to catch her. I do not know how long I stood there gripping the shirt, my thoughts spinning. The kids were still asleep down the hall. Tyler, 10, probably dreaming of baseball, and Mia, 9, curled up with the stuffed bunny she never let go of. The house was silent, but inside my head there was nothing but chaos. How long had this been going on? Who was he? A doctor she worked with? A patient's father? I kept picturing her with someone else, laughing, touching his arm, while I was home making dinner for the kids. My throat burned. I wanted to scream, to shake her awake and demand answers. But I did not. Instead, I smoothed the shirt out, placed it back where it was, and went downstairs to make coffee. And that was when it hit me. Lauren had not just broken my trust. She had shattered us. And worse, she wanted me to do something about it. That scarf, that lipstick, they were not just proof. They were the beginning of something I could not ignore, something that would change everything I thought I knew about my wife, my family, and myself. I spent the day too distracted, barely able to focus on my client portfolios. Numbers usually calmed me clean, predictable, something I could control. But not today. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that red stain, smelled that cologne. By the time I picked up Tyler and Mia from school, I was a mess, but I hid it. "How was your day, bud?" I asked Tyler, ruffling his hair. He shrugged, mumbling something about a math test. Mia chatted about a new friend, her voice bright, oblivious. I smiled, nodded, pretended everything was fine, but inside I was unraveling. How do you tell your kids their mother is not who you thought she was? You do not. Not yet. So I held it together. Made spaghetti for dinner. Helped with homework. Lauren texted another late night at the hospital. An emergency. I did not reply. When the kids were asleep, I went back to the bedroom, picked up that scarf again, and sat on the edge of the mattress. My marriage was dying, and I was not sure if I could save it, or if I even wanted to. All I knew was that Lauren had started this game, and I was not going to lose without a fight. The next morning I sat at the kitchen table, the kids already off to school, the house quiet except for the hum of the fridge. Lauren had left early again, her usual routine these days, and I was alone with my coffee, staring at the empty space where she had sat just hours ago, smiling like everything was fine. To everyone else, we were the perfect couple. Michael and Lauren Barrett, the golden pair of Lakeview Heights. Friends would tell us how lucky we were, how they envied our life. At parties, Lauren would lean into me, laughing at some dumb joke I made, her hand resting on mine like it belonged there. I would grin back, Proud to be her husband, proud of the family we built. Tyler and Mia were the heart of it. Tyler with his quiet intensity, Mia with her endless energy. People saw us and thought, that is what love looks like. But sitting there, the memory of that scarf burning in my mind, I realized the truth. It was all a lie. The love I thought we had was already dead, and I had been too blind to see it. Looking back, the signs had been there all along, scattered across the last few years like breadcrumbs I should have followed. It started small. Late nights at the hospital, the excuse of a heavier caseload. I believed her. Nodded. Told her I understood. I even brought her dinner sometimes when she texted that she would be stuck at the hospital past midnight. She would kiss me quickly, say thanks, but her eyes never really met mine. I told myself it was just stress. Being a pediatrician is not easy. Sick kids, worried parents, long hours. I did not want to add to her burden by complaining. But then the coldness crept in. Our bed felt bigger, emptier. She would roll away when I reached for her, muttering that she was tired, and I would lie there staring at the ceiling, convincing myself it was just a phase. We had had rough patches before money worries when I started my business. The exhaustion after Mia was born, but we always pulled through. I believed we would fix this too. I was wrong. It was not just the late nights or the growing distance between us. It was the little things that piled up, the ones I had brushed off as nothing. The way she started correcting me in front of people, sharp remarks disguised as jokes. At a barbecue earlier that year, I was telling a story about a client when she cut in. That is not how it happened, Michael. You always exaggerate. Everyone laughed, but it stung. She had never done that before. Not like that. Or the way she would pull her hand away when I reached for it at hospital fundraisers, brushing it off with a smile that never reached her eyes. I would stand there praising her to a room full of people. I could not do what I do without Lauren. She would nod, say something sweet back, but it felt rehearsed, like lines from a script we both knew too well. I kept thinking it was me, that I was not doing enough, was not being the husband she needed. So I worked harder. Planned date nights she canceled. Bought her flowers she forgot to water. I was chasing a ghost. The kids did not see it. Or maybe they did, and I just did not want to admit it. Tyler had grown quieter, spending more time alone in his room with video games. Mia still hugged us both, but her questions about why Mom was always gone made my chest ache. She is helping sick kids, sweetie. She would nod, trusting me. I wanted to believe it too. But the truth was, Lauren had checked out of our marriage long before that scarf showed up. The late nights were not just work. The coldness was not just exhaustion. She was pulling away brick by brick, building a wall I could not climb. And I had been too busy playing the good husband to notice. Maybe it had started 3 years ago when we went through IVF for Mia. Back then she held my hand, cried with me when it worked. Now I wondered if even that had been real. I took a sip of coffee, cold now, and stared out the window at the backyard. The swing set Tyler and I built last spring swayed in the breeze, a reminder of better days. I thought about the last hospital fundraiser a couple of months ago. Lauren had been radiant, working the room, while I stood by the bar chatting with her colleagues. They clapped me on the back, told me how lucky I was to have her. I agreed, smiling like an idiot. But now, replaying it, I saw the cracks. The way she glanced at her phone too often, slipped away to take a call, came back with that tight little smile. I had asked who it was. Just work, she said. I did not push. I never pushed. And that was my mistake. The perfect life we built was not perfect at all. It was a stage. And I had been playing my part while she rewrote the script. The question was not how we had fallen apart. It was what she was hiding, and why she had let me find that scarf. I stood in the kitchen that morning, about 10 days before our 14th anniversary, the house still quiet while the kids slept upstairs. Lauren was in the shower, the faint sound of water running through the pipes, and I was trying to keep busy wiping down the counter, setting out cereal bowls, anything to stop my mind from spinning. The scarf, the lipstick, the cologne, they had been gnawing at me for days, creeping into every thought until I could not sleep. I kept telling myself I was overreacting, that there had to be an explanation. Maybe I would confront her later. Maybe I would plan something nice for our anniversary, a weekend away, just the two of us, to fix whatever was breaking. I grabbed her phone off the counter. Not to snoop, just to check our shared calendar, to see if we had time to get away. But when I swiped it open, everything changed. His name stared back at me. Dr. Kevin Rhodes. A text notification glowing on the screen. And my stomach dropped like I had been punched. Kevin. I knew him. Tall, Slick, one of those charming types from the hospital. I had shaken his hand at fundraisers, made small talk about golf and the weather while he flashed that easy grin. The message was short, but it cut deep. Last night was perfect. Cannot wait to see you again. What are you telling him? My hand started shaking, the phone slipping in my grip. I did not think. I just scrolled up, my thumb moving faster than my brain could catch up. Months of texts unfolded in front of me. Secret meetups. Meet me at the lake house. 8 p.m. Inside jokes. He would lose it if he knew. And then the worst of it. He still thinks we are just having issues. Poor guy. Kevin replied. At least he makes a good babysitter while you are with me. I felt sick, like the air had been sucked out of the room. I stood there, staring at the screen, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Every word was a knife, slicing through 14 years of trust. Lauren was not just cheating. She was laughing about it, mocking me. Poor guy. That was what she called me. The man who had stayed up with her through med school finals, who had held her hand through labor with Tyler and Mia, who had built this life with her. She had turned me into a joke. My hands tightened around the phone, and for a moment I wanted to throw it against the wall, let it shatter like everything else. But I did not. Upstairs, the shower stopped. Floorboards creaked as she moved through the bedroom. I set the phone back on the counter exactly where it had been, turned to the coffee maker. My hands were steady now, but inside I was wrecked. A few minutes later she came down, wrapped in her robe, hair dripping onto her shoulders. Morning, she said, grabbing her mug like it was any other day. I nodded, muttered a quiet, morning, and handed her the coffee. She smiled small, quick, the kind of smile you give a stranger. And I watched her, searching her face for something. Nothing. No guilt. No shame. She looked normal. Calm. Like she had not spent months lying to me. I wanted to scream, who is Kevin? What have you been doing? But I did not. I just stood there, sipping my coffee, letting the silence stretch between us. She kissed me goodbye, light, barely there, and walked out the door. I waited until her car was gone, then went into the bathroom, locked the door, and punched the mirror. The glass cracked. My knuckles bled, but I did not feel it. All I felt was rage. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I dropped the kids at school, went to my office, stared at my computer screen without seeing it. Numbers swam in front of me, clients, investments, profit margins, but none of it mattered. All I could see was that text. What are you telling him? She was planning to leave me, and Kevin was in on it. I kept replaying every moment I had seen him at hospital events, shaking my hand, smiling like we were friends. Had he been laughing at me then too? And Lauren, how long had she been sneaking off to him? The lake house. She had told me it was a work retreat earlier that year. I had watched Tyler and Mia that weekend, taking them to the park while she was with him. My chest burned, a mix of anger and shame. I had been blind, trusting, while they turned me into a fool. By the time I got home, the kids were doing homework. I cooked dinner on autopilot, chicken and rice, their favorite. Lauren texted late again. Hospital stuff. I did not reply. After the kids were in bed, I sat on the couch, the house dark around me, and let it sink in. She was not just cheating. She was done with me. With us. And she had been stringing me along until she was ready to pull the plug. The texts proved it. Months of lies. Months of her slipping away while I held everything together. The scarf, the lipstick, the cologne, they were not accidents. She had left them for me to find, testing me, maybe even wanting me to blow up so she could walk away clean. But I was not going to give her that. Not yet. I would play along. Keep quiet. Figure out my next move. Because if Lauren thought she could break me and walk away smiling, she was dead wrong. That night, after the kids were asleep and the house settled into that heavy quiet that follows a long day, I checked on them. Tyler's light was off. Mia's bunny was tucked under her arm. I kissed their foreheads, told them I loved them. It was routine, something I had done 1,000 times. But tonight it felt different, like I was holding on tighter because everything else was slipping away. Downstairs, Lauren sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone, the blue light flickering across her face. I had carried those texts in my head all day. Kevin, her lies, the way they had laughed at me. My knuckles still ached from the mirror, a dull pain that matched the one in my chest. I could not keep pretending, not after what I had seen. I took a deep breath, walked into the living room, and stood in front of her. It was time to end the game. Are you involved with Kevin? My voice was low, steady. I did not yell. I did not shake. I just looked at her, waiting. She did not even flinch. She set her phone down, slow, deliberate, and met my eyes. Yes. Flat. Like she was telling me she had picked up milk from the store. No hesitation. No apology. Just that one word hanging between us like a bomb waiting to go off. My throat tightened. My hands clenched at my sides. But I did not move. Her face was blank, almost bored, like watching my world crumble was nothing more than an inconvenience. 14 years. 14 years of whispered dreams, morning plans, laughter over burnt dinners, and now she sat there looking at me like I was nothing. I want a divorce, Michael. She leaned back against the couch, arms crossed, voice cold, final. That was it. No tears. No fight. Just a demand. I did not speak at first. I just stared at her, searching for the woman I had married in those hard, empty eyes. Where was the Lauren who had once clung to me after her father died, sobbing into my shirt? The Lauren who had kissed me in the rain, laughing like we had forever? She was gone, replaced by a stranger who had been planning her exit while I played the clueless husband. I wanted to beg, to ask why, to demand how she could throw it all away so easily. But I did not. Something in her voice, the certainty, the detachment told me this had been decided long before I ever found that scarf. This was not some impulse. She had thought it through, probably rehearsed it with Kevin. I was just the last loose end. So I nodded slow. Okay. Her eyebrows lifted, just slightly, like she had expected me to break. But I did not. I turned and walked upstairs, leaving her there. I would not give her the satisfaction of watching me fall apart. The next morning, I woke to the sound of her moving around in the kitchen. For a moment I lay there, staring at the ceiling, the weight of last night pressing down on me. My marriage was over. Just like that. One word. A shrug. I got up, got dressed, and headed downstairs. Lauren was pouring coffee, acting normal, like we had not just torn our life apart. On the counter next to her mug sat a business card, her lawyer's name printed in sharp black letters. She did not say a word about it. Just sipped her coffee, glanced at me, and said, "I will be at the hospital late again." Then she grabbed her bag and walked out the door. I picked up the card, ran my thumb over the edge, and felt something settle inside me, cold, steady. She thought this was the end, that I would sign some papers, let her run off with Kevin, and fade into the background. She was wrong. I dropped the kids at school, drove to my office, and sat at my desk, the card still in my pocket. My hands were not shaking anymore. The shock was gone, replaced by something sharper, harder. She had played me, used me, but I was not going to crumble. I had built this life, our home, our family, my career, and I was not some pawn she could just toss aside. I thought about Tyler and Mia, their peaceful faces last night, safe in sleep. They did not deserve this mess, and I would be damned if I let her take them from me, or let Kevin sit there smirking, texting her while I raised our kids. He did not get to win either. I pulled out my phone, searched his name, and found his bio on the hospital website. Dr. Kevin Rhodes, pediatric surgeon. Polished. Perfect. I hated him, but I hated her more for letting him in. By lunchtime I had made a decision. I was not just losing a wife. I was stepping into a fight. Lauren thought she had planned it all out, that she would drop this bomb and I would roll over. But that business card was not the end of it. It was the beginning. She had been too bold, too careless, with that scarf, that lipstick. She wanted me to find them. She had pushed me to this moment. And now that we were here, she did not get to control the story. I would dig. I would fight. And I would make sure she regretted ever underestimating me. Because the real betrayal was not just her cheating. It was what she thought she could get away with next. That afternoon I sat across from Samuel Ortiz in his office, the city skyline stretching behind him through a wall of glass. Top divorce attorney. One of the best in town. Known for winning the ugly cases. I had called him right after dropping the kids off at school, Lauren's lawyer's card still burning a hole in my pocket. But now my hands were steady. For the first time since I had seen those texts, my mind was clear. Samuel leaned back in his chair, sharp eyes sizing me up as I laid everything out. The scarf. The lipstick. Kevin. Her cold, detached yes last night. Her demand for divorce. He did not interrupt. Just nodded, scribbling notes on a legal pad. When I finished, he set his pen down and said, "Start digging. If she is this bold, there is more she is not telling you." His words stuck. Heavy. True. I left his office with a plan. And that evening, I went looking for answers. After the kids were asleep, I pulled out our financial records. Lauren and I had joint accounts checking, savings, investments. I had always handled the money. Numbers were my thing. She trusted me with it while she focused on her career. I never questioned it. Now I questioned everything. I grabbed my laptop, a stack of bank statements, and a beer, then settled at the kitchen table. The house was dark, quiet, just the hum of the fridge as I started flipping through the papers. At first everything looked normal. Mortgage payments, groceries, Tyler's baseball fees, Mia's dance lessons, then a withdrawal. $5,000, dated last July, to something called Summit Point Holdings. I frowned. Checked the next month. Another one. $17,000. Then $10,000 the month after that. My heartbeat picked up. I pulled up our online account, scrolled back 3 years. There it was. Over and over. Hundreds of thousands of dollars gone, all funneled to Summit Point Holdings. I sat back, staring at the screen, my beer forgotten. Nearly $200,000 drained from our savings, and I had never even noticed. How? I had been so busy keeping our life running, paying bills, planning vacations, making sure the kids had everything they needed, that I had not seen her siphoning money right out from under my nose. I grabbed my phone and searched Summit Point Holdings. Nothing clear came up. Just a generic business listing. No details. My gut twisted. This was not some random investment. Every withdrawal lined up with something else. 3 years ago, when we had gone through IVF to have Mia, those months had been a blur of doctor visits, cautious hope, and Lauren's late nights at the clinic. She had said it was work, but now I wondered, what had she really been doing with that money? The next morning I called the bank, kept my voice calm even though my hands were shaking. The rep confirmed that Summit Point Holdings was registered in Lauren's name alone, a private account, one she had set up without me. I thanked them, hung up, and just sat there. The kids' laughter drifted in from the backyard, but all I could hear was the roaring in my head. She had hidden this from me, built a secret fund while I paid for everything: our house, our cars, our kids' future. Was it for Kevin? A getaway plan? My mind raced, piecing it together. The affair was bad enough. But this was bigger. Something she had been working on for years. She had not just left that scarf and lipstick behind by accident. She had wanted me to find them. Maybe this was part of it, too, pushing me to unravel her. I spent the day digging deeper. Pulled every statement I could find. The withdrawals were steady, deliberate. $5,000 here. $10,000 there. Small enough to slip past if you were not looking. But I was looking now. I called Samuel, told him everything. Good, he said. Keep going. Money like that does not just vanish. It is tied to something. We use it. His voice was steady, like he had seen this before. It steadied me. I hung up and went back to the records, my anger growing with every page. Lauren was not just cheating. She was stealing, planning, building something, and I was not part of it. I thought about Mia, how we had fought so hard to have her, how Lauren had held my hand through every appointment, whispered promises that we would get through it together. Had that been a lie too? Was the money tied to the IVF somehow? By nightfall, I had a stack of printouts, a headache, and a fire in my chest. The kids were asleep. Lauren was still at the hospital, or wherever she really was. I sat in the living room, statements spread across the coffee table, staring at the words Summit Point Holdings. 3 years, $200,000. It did not add up. Not yet. But I knew one thing. This was not just about Kevin. She had been playing a longer game, one I had been too trusting to see. I thought about confronting her, slamming the papers in her face, demanding answers. But I did not. Samuel was right. I had to dig more, find the whole truth. Because if Lauren thought she could take our money, our life, and walk away clean, she did not know me at all. I was not just fighting for a divorce anymore. I was fighting for everything she had tried to hide. That is how I ended up here. I sat in my car outside a rundown diner on the edge of town, gripping the wheel. The neon sign flickered in the fading light. Samuel had arranged this, said I needed to meet Dr. Neil Dawson, a guy who used to work with Lauren at Lakeview Medical Center until he left under what he called mysterious circumstances. After finding the money tied to Summit Point Holdings, I could not shake the feeling that Lauren's secrets ran deeper than an affair. The $200,000. The timing with Mia's IVF. It was all connected, and I needed answers. Neil had reached out to Samuel after hearing about my divorce, said he had something I would want to know. So there I was, parked in a gravel lot outside a dingy diner, my stomach churning with nerves and anger. Whatever he had to say, I knew it would change everything. He walked in first, wiry, early 50s, graying hair, tired eyes. I followed a minute later, sliding into the booth across from him. The air smelled like grease and coffee, the kind of place where no one would look twice at us. He did not waste time. "I have been waiting for this day," he said, voice low as he leaned forward. I frowned. "What do you mean?" He took a sip of water, then locked eyes with me. "Your wife is a liar, Michael. And what she did to you, it is worse than you think." My chest tightened. I had come expecting something about the money, maybe a lead on Summit Point Holdings. But the way he said it made my skin crawl. "Tell me," I said, keeping my voice steady even though I wanted to grab him and shake it out of him. Neil glanced around, checking for eavesdroppers, then started talking. 3 years ago, during your IVF for Mia, Lauren made a deal. Summit Point Holdings, it is a shell company tied to a fertility clinic she worked with on the side. She did not just use it to move money. She used it to switch your sample. I stared at him. My brain stumbled over the words. Switch my what? My voice was louder than I meant. Neil held up a hand, kept going. She made sure you were not the biological father. Picked an anonymous donor instead. Paid for it through Summit Point. Kept it off the books at Lakeview. I found out, tried to blow the whistle, and they pushed me out. My mouth went dry. I could not move. Could not think. Just sat there as his words sank in like lead. I thought about Mia, her big brown eyes, her wild curls, the way she climbed into my lap and called me daddy. Tyler quiet, steady, my shadow since he was a toddler. They were not mine. Lauren had done this. Lied to me, to them, to everyone. I gripped the edge of the table. Why? I managed to choke out. Neil shrugged, his face grim. Power, maybe. Control. Or just because she could. She is cold, Michael. You know that now. Now I did. The scarf. The lipstick. The way she had said yes about Kevin. It all fit. She was not just cheating. She had rewritten our family, taken my kids from me before I even knew it. I wanted to scream, to drive home and tear into her. But I just sat there, numb. Neil slid a folder across the table. Inside were copies of emails, clinic records, proof he had dug up before they fired him. This will hold up in court, he said. Use it. I nodded, took the folder. My hands shook as I flipped through it. Dates. Payments. Lauren's signature. It was all there. 3 years ago, while I had been sitting in waiting rooms hoping for Mia, she had been plotting this. The $200,000. It was not just for her and Kevin. It was for this. To pay off the clinic. To bury the truth. I looked up at Neil. Why tell me now? He sighed. Because I have got a daughter too. If someone did this to me, I would want to know. I thanked him, slid out of the booth, and walked back to my car, the folder heavy in my hands. Driving home, my head was a mess. The kids were with a sitter. Lauren was working late again. And I kept seeing their faces, Tyler's grin when he hit a home run, Mia's laugh when I tickled her. Not mine biologically, but what did that change? I had raised them, loved them, been their dad every day. But Lauren, she had known all along. Kept this secret while building our life on a lie. I parked in the garage, sitting in the dark as the engine cooled, my hands tightening on the wheel. She had taken more than my trust, more than our marriage. She had taken my kids' truth, and I would never forgive her for that. Inside, I locked the folder in my desk and poured a drink. The house was too quiet, too empty without the kids' noise. I thought about confronting her when she got home, slamming the proof in her face, watching her squirm. But I did not. Not yet. Neil's words echoed. Use it. I would. But I would do it right. I would get DNA tests, build a case, hit her where it hurt. Because this was not just betrayal. It was fraud. And she would pay for it. I finished my drink, set the glass down, and made a promise to myself. Lauren thought she had won. Thought she could remake our family and walk away. She was wrong. I would fight for Tyler. For Mia. For me. And I would make sure she lost everything. The next morning I woke up with a weight on my chest, the kind that does not lift no matter how deep you breathe. Neil's words from the diner kept replaying in my head. Lauren switching my sample. Mia and Tyler not being mine biologically. Summit Point Holdings hiding it all. The folder sat locked in my desk, but it felt like it was burning a hole through the house. I could not just sit on this. I had to know. Had to see it in black and white. So after dropping Tyler and Mia at school, I drove to a drugstore across town, one where nobody would recognize me. My hands shook as I grabbed 2 DNA test kits off the shelf, the kind you swab and send off. I paid cash, avoided the cashier's eyes, and got out of there fast. Back home, I sat in the kitchen, staring at the boxes, knowing this was the point of no return. I waited until the kids were home that afternoon. Lauren was at the hospital. Or with Kevin. Who knew? I called them into the living room. Tyler flopped onto the couch, still in his baseball jersey. Mia bounced over, her ponytail swinging. "What is up, Dad?" Tyler asked, casual but curious. I forced a smile, held up the swabs. "Just a little science thing," I said, keeping it light. "They are testing DNA at school, right? Thought we would try it too." Mia giggled, always up for something new. Tyler shrugged, game as ever. I swabbed their cheeks quick and easy, joking about how we would find out if they were secretly aliens. They laughed, and for a second it felt normal, me and my kids, messing around like always. But my stomach was in knots. I sealed the samples, added my own, and mailed them to a discreet testing center Samuel had recommended. Then I waited. The next 6 days were hell. I went through the motions: work, school runs, dinners with the kids, but my mind was somewhere else. Lauren floated in and out, her usual late-night excuses barely registering. I did not confront her, did not even look at her longer than I had to. She did not notice. Or she did not care. Every morning I checked the mail, my heart pounding. Until the envelope finally came. Plain, unmarked, just my name on it. I took it to my office, locked the door, and sat at my desk, staring at it for a good 10 minutes before I finally ripped it open. The results were stark. Probability of paternity, 0% for both Tyler and Mia. I read it again, then a third time, hoping I had missed something. I had not. My kids, the ones I had raised, loved, fought for, were not mine. Not by blood. And Lauren had made sure of that. I leaned back in my chair, the paper trembling in my hands. It was not just the fact of it. It was her. She had done this. Planned it. Paid for it with our money while I sat in those IVF waiting rooms, dreaming of our family. I thought about Tyler's first steps. Mia's tiny hand in mine at the park. Those moments were mine. But she had stolen the root of them. My eyes burned, but I did not cry. I was past that now. Past shock. Past hurt. What I felt was cold, hard anger, the kind that settles in and does not let go. I grabbed my printer and made 3 copies of the results, one for Samuel, one for a safety deposit box, and one for Lauren. Not now. But when the time was right, she would see it. And I would watch her face when she did. That night, I poured a whiskey and sat in the dark, the house quiet around me. The kids were asleep. Lauren was still out. I did not care where she was anymore. My mind was on what came next. This was not just about the divorce now. This was about payback. She had taken my trust, my money, my family's truth, and she thought she would get away with it. She thought I would sign her papers, let her run off with Kevin, and fade away. No chance. I pictured her standing there, smug, saying yes about Kevin, dropping that lawyer's card like she had already won. She had not. I would destroy her. Not with yelling, not with begging, but with cold, calculated steps she would never see coming. The next morning I called Samuel, told him about the results. "Perfect," he said, his voice sharp. "This is fraud, Michael. Medical. Financial. We have got her." He was already working the Angle lawsuits, criminal charges. I nodded along, but my mind was elsewhere. On Lauren. On the life she had built on lies. I thought about the hospital, her pristine reputation as a pediatrician. She would lose that. Her career. Her comfortable little world with Kevin. I would take it all. I hung up, went to my desk, and pulled out Neil's folder again, cross-checking dates with the bank statements. It lined up perfectly. Every payment. Every withdrawal. Every transfer through Summit Point Holdings. She had been so careful, but not careful enough. By the time Lauren got home that night, I was calm. Too calm, maybe. She walked in, tossed her bag on the counter, barely glancing at me. "Kids asleep?" she asked. I nodded, sipping my coffee. She did not say anything else. Just headed upstairs. I watched her go, knowing she had no idea what was coming. The DNA results were my weapon, and I would use them when it hurt her most. This was not just about ending a marriage anymore. It was about making her pay for Tyler, for Mia, for every lie she had fed me. And I would enjoy every second of it. That morning I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie. My reflection stared back hard, steady eyes. Tonight was the Lakeview Medical Gala, the big annual event where Lauren would receive her Medical Excellence Award. A shiny plaque for her shiny life. All built on lies. She had been buzzing about it for weeks, picking out a dress, practicing her speech, acting like she deserved every bit of praise. I had nodded along, played the supportive husband. But inside, I was counting down to this moment. She had no idea what I had been doing. Meeting with Samuel, gathering evidence from Neil, locking the DNA results and bank records in a safety deposit box. The hospital board had it all now, thanks to a quiet tip from Samuel. The district attorney was circling, and lawyers for other families victims of her fertility scam were sharpening their knives. Tonight was not her triumph. It was her reckoning, and I would be there to watch it fall apart. That afternoon, I drove the kids to my sister's place. Tyler grumbled about missing his game. Mia hugged me tight. "Why do you look so serious, Daddy?" she asked. "Just a big night, kiddo," I said, ruffling her hair. I did not tell them their mom's world was about to crash. They would find out soon enough. And when they did, I would protect them. Back home, I got ready. Slipped into my best suit, the black one Lauren always said made me look sharp. She was already gone, probably at some salon, texting Kevin about their big celebration later. I checked my phone. Samuel's last message. "It is set. Board is meeting now. Stay cool." I tucked it into my pocket, grabbed my keys, and headed to the gala, my hands steady but my mind racing. The venue was packed. Doctors, donors, hospital bigwigs milling around under chandeliers, clinking champagne glasses. I spotted Lauren across the room, radiant in a deep blue dress, laughing with a group of colleagues. Kevin was there too, hovering close, his hand brushing her arm. My jaw clenched, but I kept moving, blending into the crowd. People nodded at me. "Good to see you, Michael." Big night for Lauren. I smiled back, tight, polite. They had no idea I was not there to cheer her on. I grabbed a drink, leaned against the bar, and waited. The program started soon after: speeches, awards, the usual pomp. Then her name. The room erupted in applause. She walked up, all grace and confidence, and I watched, my stomach twisting with a mix of anger and satisfaction. Her speech was perfect, humble yet proud, thanking her team, her patients, even me, with a little wave in my direction. "Could not do it without my family," she said. And the crowd ate it up. I raised my glass, played along, but my eyes were on the board members in the front row. They were not clapping anymore. Dr. Randall Cooper, the hospital chair, leaned over and whispered to the woman beside him, his face grim. Lauren did not notice. She was too busy soaking in the spotlight. When she finished, the applause was loud. But it died fast. Dr. Cooper stood, stepped to the mic, and cleared his throat. "Thank you, Dr. Barrett," he said, his voice tight. "Before we move on, we have an announcement." Lauren froze. Her smile faltered. I straightened up, my heart pounding. "We have received serious allegations," Cooper continued, "regarding Dr. Barrett's conduct, specifically financial and medical misconduct tied to Summit Point Holdings and fertility treatments. Effective immediately, she is suspended pending investigation." The room went silent, then erupted in murmurs. Lauren's face drained of color. Her award slipped in her hands. She looked around, panicked. Her eyes landed on me. I met her gaze, calm and cold, and took a slow sip of my drink. Kevin stepped back, his charm gone, confusion taking over. People started whispering. "What is Summit Point Holdings? Misconduct?" And then I saw it. She realized this was not a mistake. This was planned. She stumbled off the stage. Reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. I stayed where I was, watching her unravel. I did not move until she shoved through the crowd toward me, her eyes wild. "You did this," she hissed, her voice shaking. I set my glass down, leaned in close. "You did this to yourself," I said, quiet but firm. "Enjoy your reward." She stared at me, fury and fear twisting in her face. Then she turned and bolted for the exit. Kevin trailed behind her like a lost puppy. The room buzzed, shock, questions, phones lighting up with texts, but I felt steady, almost light. I had pictured this moment for days, planned every step with Samuel, and it had gone better than I hoped. Her career, her reputation, crumbling, and I had lit the match. I left soon after. The cool night air hit me as I stepped outside. My phone buzzed. Samuel again. DA moving fast. She is done. I nodded to myself, got in my car, and drove home. The house was empty, the kids still at my sister's. I sat in the living room, replaying it all, Lauren's smug smile fading, the board's announcement, the look on her face. It was not over. Not yet. But tonight was mine. She thought she could cheat, lie, and walk away clean. I had made sure she could not. As I poured a drink and settled into the silence, I let myself enjoy it. every single second of her fall. I woke up the next morning with a strange calm settling over me, the kind that comes after a storm you have been bracing for. The gala had been a knockout punch. Lauren's big night turned into her public humiliation, and I had watched it unfold with a satisfaction I had not expected. She texted me a string of furious messages. "How could you? You will regret this." I did not reply. Let her stew. Because today, I had one more move to make, one I had been saving for the perfect moment. She and Kevin were celebrating at La Bella Vita, our favorite restaurant, the place where I had proposed 14 years ago. I had heard her on the phone the day before, planning it before the gala went south, probably thinking they would toast her victory. Now it would be something else entirely, and I would be there to deliver the final blow. I spent the day with the kids and my sister, keeping things normal. I helped Tyler with his math homework, played dolls with Mia. They did not know about the gala yet, and I was not ready to tell them. "Where is Mom?" Mia asked at one point, her voice small. I forced a smile. "She is dealing with some stuff. But we are okay." They nodded, trusting me, and I held on to that. By evening, I dropped them back home with a sitter, got dressed, dark slacks, a crisp shirt, no tie. Then I grabbed the envelope from my desk. Inside were the DNA results, stark, undeniable. Probability of paternity, 0%. I had made an extra copy just for this. Folded it neatly, slipped it into my jacket. My hands were steady as I drove to the restaurant, the city lights blurring past. This was not about anger anymore. This was about finishing what she started. I walked into La Bella Vita 20 minutes after they arrived. I had called ahead, asked the hostess to text me when they were seated. The place was warm, familiar soft lighting, clinking glasses, the rich scent of garlic and wine in the air. I spotted them immediately. Lauren and Kevin, tucked into a corner table. Her in a red dress. Him in a suit. Both leaning close, wine glasses half empty. She was talking, her hands moving fast, probably raging about last night. Kevin looked tense, nodding along. I stood by the door for a second, watching. A tightness gripped my chest. A memory proposing here, down on one knee, her laughing, saying yes, the whole room clapping. Now it was their spot. Her new life with him. I pushed the thought down, straightened up, and walked over, the envelope a solid weight against my ribs. They saw me when I was a few steps away. Lauren's eyes widened, then narrowed. Her lips curled into that smug smirk she had worn too often lately. Kevin shifted, uncomfortable, his usual charm nowhere in sight. I stopped at their table, calm, composed, and nodded at them. "Evening," I said, my voice even. Lauren leaned back, arms crossed. "What are you doing here, Michael?" she snapped, sharp loud. A few heads turned. I did not flinch. "Just dropping by." I pulled the envelope from my jacket. "Congratulations on your freedom, Lauren. Thought you would want this." I slid it across the table, slow, deliberate, watching her face. She stared at it, then at me. Her smirk faltered. Kevin frowned, shifting in his seat. "What is this?" he asked. But she did not answer. She just grabbed the envelope, ripped it open, and pulled out the paper. I watched her eyes scan the page. Saw the moment it hit her. The DNA results, Tyler, Mia, me all laid out in cold, irrefutable print. Her hands shook, just a little. The color drained from her face. That smirk gone, replaced by something raw. Shock. Maybe even fear. Kevin leaned over, confused. "Well, what is this?" he asked, his voice rising. She did not look at him, just kept staring at the paper, her breath catching. I leaned in, close enough that only they could hear. "Looks like your boyfriend is the only real father at this table," I said, quiet, sharp. Funny how that works. The restaurant went silent. Or maybe it just felt that way. The background noise faded, heads turned. Lauren's eyes snapped up to mine, wide, wild, like she could not believe I had done it. Kevin grabbed the paper from her hands, scanned it, his face twisting. "Lauren, what the hell?" he started. But she cut him off, slamming her hand on the table. "You scum sucker," she hissed, her voice trembling. I straightened up, meeting her glare with a steady one of my own. "Takes one to know one," I said. Then I turned and walked away. I could feel their eyes on my back, the room buzzing, whispers, gasps, but I did not look back. I had said what I needed to say, dropped the bomb I had been holding, and left her to choke on it. Outside, the night air hit me, cool and crisp. I stood by my car, letting it sink in. She had opened that envelope thinking she could handle anything I threw at her. But she had not expected this. Not here. Not now. Her confusion, Her panic. It was perfect. I had taken her smug little celebration and turned it into a nightmare, right where I had once promised her forever. My phone buzzed. Samuel, checking in. How did it go? I texted back, better than planned. Then I got in the car, started the engine, and drove home. For the first time in weeks, the weight lifted. Lauren thought she controlled the story, but I had rewritten the ending. And this time, she would not forget it. I woke up the next morning with a quiet I had not felt in months, the kind that comes when you finally let go of something heavy. Lauren's career was in tatters after the gala, her involvement with Kevin exposed, and those DNA results had hit her like a freight train. I could still see her face pale, shaken, that smug mask cracked wide open. The house was peaceful for once. The kids were still asleep down the hall. I stood at the kitchen window, coffee in hand, watching the sun climb over Lakeview Heights. 14 years as Lauren's husband were behind me now, and today felt like the first page of something new, something I would write myself. The fallout came fast. By noon, my phone was buzzing with updates from Samuel. The hospital had launched a full investigation into Lauren's fertility scam. Summit Point Holdings was shut down, its records seized. The board was scrambling to contain the damage. Families were coming forward, some with stories like mine, others worse, all pointing to her. The district attorney had enough for charges: fraud, embezzlement, maybe more, and Samuel said it would stick. Kevin bailed too. Word was he left her after the restaurant, packed up, gone. Probably spooked by the legal mess. Or just done with her lies. I did not care why. He was out. She was alone. And the divorce papers I had signed, they felt like a clean break. I fought for full custody, and with everything piling up against her, the judge did not hesitate. Tyler and Mia were mine now. Legally. Fully. No matter what the DNA said. I spent the day with them, keeping it simple. We went to the park, Tyler kicking a soccer ball, Mia swinging high, her laughter cutting through the crisp air. They asked about Lauren again. Mom okay? Tyler asked. She is dealing with some stuff, I said. But we are okay. They nodded, trusting me. And I held on to that. I would tell them more when they were ready, when I could explain it without breaking their world apart. For now, they were happy. They were safe. And that was enough. Back home, we made pizza, messy dough everywhere, the kids giggling as I dropped cheese on the floor. It was normal. For a few hours, life felt light, simple. Lauren's shadow was not gone, but it was fading. And in its place, I was building something new. That evening, Samuel called while I was cleaning up the kitchen. The board is forming an ethics committee on medical fraud, he said. They want you on it. Your story, your fight, they think it would mean something. I leaned against the counter, the phone warm against my ear, and thought about it. Me, Michael Barrett, the man who had once been Lauren's husband. Her prop, now sitting on a committee to stop people like her. It was not what I had planned. My life was numbers, spreadsheets, not this. But it fit. I had lived it. Lost to it. Fought it. Yeah, I said finally. I am in. Samuel laughed, short, sharp. Good. You have earned it. We hung up, and I stood there, letting it sink in. A new role. A new purpose. Something I had chosen. Not her. Lauren showed up later that night, unexpected. The doorbell rang, and there she was, hair messy, eyes red, no trace of the polished doctor she had been. The kids were in bed, thank God. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. What do you want? I asked, my voice flat. She hugged her arms around herself, looking smaller than I had ever seen her. I need to see them, she said, her voice cracking. I shook my head. Not tonight. Not like this. She glared at me, that old fire flaring up. You have taken everything, Michael. My job. My life. I cut her off. You did that. You lied. You stole. You chose Kevin. Do not put this on me. Her mouth opened, then closed. She turned away, tears spilling down her face. I watched her go, her car peeling out, and felt nothing. No pity. No regret. She had made her bed. The next few days were quiet. Steady. I went back to work, met with clients, started rebuilding routines. The kids adjusted. Tyler opened up more. Mia clung a little less. People talked, neighbors, friends asking about the scandal. I kept it short. We are moving on, I would say. And they would nod, then leave it alone. The hospital sent the official invite for the ethics committee. I signed on. First meeting set for next month. It felt right, using what I had been through to stop it from happening to someone else. I thought about Neil, his tired eyes in that diner, and made a note to thank him. He had given me the key to all of this. One night, after the kids were asleep, I sat on the porch, a beer in hand, the stars clear above. I thought about the last 14 years. Lauren, the life we had, the lies she spun. I was not that Michael anymore. Not her husband. Not her shadow. I was free, not just from her, but from the version of me I had let her shape. Tyler and Mia were mine, blood or not. And this house, this life, was ours now. I took a sip, let the quiet settle, and smiled just a little. The story was not over. It was just mine now. And I would write it my way, one day at a time. That's the end of today's story. If you haven't yet, please like the video, subscribe, and turn on the bell. What are your thoughts? Share them in the comments. We read them all. And thanks for watching. You're always welcome here.